What's up, losers? Today I'm back with some more r/fatlogic shenanigans. Taking a look at a few discussion-worthy posts, sharing my thoughts on them, and having a few laughs. This is episode 107 in the fatlogic series. And the fantastical world of fat acceptance awaits us. So without further lollygagging, let's get into it.
Funny how diet culture shames you if you eat to cope with stress, but praises you if you exercise to cope with stress. Food is energy for survival. Exercise is a form of stress on the body. So which one makes more biological sense as a coping tool?
Well, I wouldn't say that either of them makes biological sense as a coping tool, because how one chooses to manage their emotions is not a biological matter. But I'm happy to compare the two of them as coping strategies in terms of their healthiness and sustainability. So let's examine the record, shall we? If one deals with stress through exercise, they are likely to become fitter, healthier, and less prone to developing serious medical problems in their foreseeable future. They might feel a level of discomfort while engaging in the exercise itself, but they will almost certainly feel a longer-lasting satisfaction from having completed the workout when they are done, which will help to alleviate their stress and enjoy a rewarding sense of accomplishment over the progress that they make in the long term, which will aid in the formation and maintenance of a positive self-image, while reinforcing the value of hard work and persistence. So that all sounds pretty good, right? A sweet deal indeed. Let's now compare these results to those of trying to eat away your problems, and see how they stack up. If you respond to stress in your day-to-day life by eating excessive quantities of comfort food, you will quickly find yourself becoming larger and less mobile. You will invite unnecessary medical risk into your life, which will in turn become a source of further stress. You will get an ephemeral bliss from indulging in your vice of overconsumption, but this will leave you feeling worse in the aftermath, forcing you to constantly eat more, to avoid the crushing emptiness that greets you when the food runs out. But no matter how much you stuff yourself, it will never be enough to make this emptiness go away. Your self-esteem will go down the toilet as you watch your weight gain spiral out of control, and find yourself unable to take back control of your own life. All told, your life will be significantly less healthy, less fulfilling, more difficult, and much more stressful than it would have been if you had simply resolved to take control of your eating from the start, let alone committed to a regular exercise routine. So, what can I say? I think that exercise prevails over emotional eating, as far as coping tools go. But what would I know?
It is frustrating and bizarre, but I try my best to avoid the issue, unless I have to set boundaries around it. No one wants to hear about your diet. I used to have an ED, very obsessed with calories and exercise, and it's like I freed up all of this brain space to do things I actually enjoy. It's also sad seeing people believe their life will magically be all better once they change themselves by losing weight. It's been proven that diets don't work, cause binge eating, and almost always result in more weight gain. I knew I was doing the definition of insanity, repeating the same thing, different diet, and expecting different results.
Okay, so I don't know much about this poster's particular circumstances, other than that they apparently struggled with an ED in the past. Obviously this is something that we should take seriously, and I'm glad that they managed to recover. I am not responding here to tell this person how to live their life, because I don't know what their ED was really like. I don't know how big they are now, and it's not my place to decide what they should value most in their own life. I do, however, take issue with the way the post frames a number of things, and I think it's fair to point these out, regardless of the difficult experiences that the poster might have had to lead them to the positions that they now hold. The first complaint I have is that the post seems to suggest that one has to choose between dieting and having a life, and that they can't do both. They say that they freed up brain space to do things that they actually enjoyed by giving up on their earlier eating and exercise habits, which implies that there is inevitably a trade-off between the two. If this is true to their own experience of having an ED, then I can accept that. But it certainly doesn't have to be true for everyone, and believing that it does will only lead people to disregard their own health in favor of leisure, when there is no reason why they shouldn't be able to have both. So basically, it's fine for you to not want to hear about someone's diet. But you shouldn't expect everyone else to feel the same way, because not everyone is like you. And diets can be extremely helpful for a lot of people. Furthermore, I don't think it's fair to assume that people who diet expect their lives to magically be all better once they lose a certain amount of weight. This might have been how you viewed things when you were in the throes of your ED, but I think that most people who attempt diets have more realistic expectations around what losing weight is actually going to do for them, and what it isn't. For a lot of people, weight loss is nothing more or less than a necessary step to secure their long-term health. For other people, it might be an opportunity for a fresh start and a more active lifestyle. Ultimately, no, it's not going to fix all of life's problems, but it's not supposed to, and we should not hold it to such an insanely high standard when evaluating its usefulness. Frankly, if anyone is engaging in magical thinking here, it's not the people who have recognized that they have a problem and resolved to do something about it. It's the people who think that they can just ignore their weight entirely and live a totally fun and carefree life. Because even if you've forgotten about your weight hasn't forgotten about you. And when you end up sick, sore, and out of pocket, I can basically guarantee that the thrill of a diet-free lifestyle will have well and truly lost its luster. So you might want to keep that in mind. Finally, it has most certainly not been proven that diets don't work, because they do work. Maybe not all gimmicky diet plans on the market work, and some diets undoubtedly work better than others. But fundamentally, it is possible to change your eating habits and achieve lasting weight loss. I would strongly recommend basic calorie counting, but I'm sure that other methods work fine too. It is not impossible to avoid binging. This is just a cop-out. It might be difficult, but you can say no. And if you don't, and your diet fails, that's on you, not on diet culture, or whatever. So can we give the excuse making a rest, please? It's growing extremely tiresome.
Body shaming is wrong, but you shouldn't promote being fat or obese.
Being gay isn't wrong, but you shouldn't promote perversity. Yeah, we heard that before. It's always silly and useless goalpost moving.
Excuse me, who exactly is moving the goalposts here? Because it sure isn't the original poster. All they're doing is calling out a very common fat acceptance tactic of using body shaming to sidetrack any reasonable discussion of the health consequences of obesity. It's a totally fair point to make. And it's not so much goalpost moving as ensuring that potentially dangerous fat acceptance messaging not go unchallenged. What's really moving the goalposts is making a completely nonsensical and straight-up offensive comparison to homosexuality, so as to make the original poster seem like a bad person, and therefore unworthy of being taken seriously. The difference between saying that gay people shouldn't promote perversity and saying that fat people shouldn't promote obesity should be pretty damn obvious. But clearly whoever wrote this isn't that bright. So I'll try to make it as simple as possible. Fat people are actually fat, and obesity is unhealthy when fat people promote obesity. They are not promoting something that others have unfairly smeared them as. They are genuinely just promoting their own unhealthy lifestyle, so that others might follow in their example. And that is bad, for obvious reasons. Gay people are not perverse, and calling them perverse is just bigotry. So gay people are not promoting perversity, insofar as they are promoting anything. It is the right to love whomever you want. And this is not harmful or unhealthy in any way, in other words. It's nothing like obesity. It's funny. This post is clearly trying to lend credibility to fat acceptance by drawing on the gay rights struggle. But all it's really done is make the poster themselves look homophobic. So that's a giant failure, haha. I guess the lesson is that if you're not smart enough to come up with a comparison that makes a lick of sense, maybe you should just let your points stand as they are, and accept the debunking that they rightly deserve, because at least that way you won't drag other, worthier, movements down with you.
Health science has been weaponized against women, trans people, intersex people, gay people, disabled people, and people of color, and yet even progressives can't fathom it being weaponized against fat people. Really, we know that normal human diversity has been medicalized and stigmatized through science for centuries, and we still can't see the similarities to how fat people are medicalized and stigmatized through science. Am I getting this right? Like, we know that science was used to excuse racism/slavery/eugenics, deem transness a mental illness, institutionalize women, call AIDS a gay disease, force intersex people to conform to society's body standards through involuntary surgeries, and yet we don't see how these very things are being done to fat people as well. Are you kidding me? Fatphobes are still using science as the be-all end-all authority, as if it hasn't been wrong and bigoted in the past, as if half of our science isn't made up bullshit from us, as we try to figure out the world, as if capitalism doesn't affect science, as if biases have never driven a scientific conclusion before, as if every word ever uttered by a man about the earth is gospel. Are you kidding me? Hashtag worthy thoughts, hashtag fatphobia, hashtag science, hashtag ableism, hashtag intersex, hashtag homophobia, hashtag transphobia.
Okay, so this post is really similar to one I talked about in another recent video. So I won't go on about it for as long as I otherwise might. But once again, pointing out the shortcomings of scientific practice, or pointing out horrible things that have been done under the banner of science in the past, cannot be used as a convenient way of dismissing any and all scientific findings that you don't like. The post seems to suggest that the refusal of most progressives to endorse fatness is caused by a lack of imagination that prevents them from considering medical fatphobia as a possibility, and an overabundance of confidence that science is never wrong, that blinds them to the many ways in which the medicalization of fatness is. Just like racism or homophobia or eugenics or any other bad thing you can think of. On each of these points, I think the post is wrong. It's not that progressives couldn't possibly imagine medicine discriminating against fat people. It's that they find the scientific evidence of the unhealthiness of obesity compelling enough that they understand why doctors are so concerned about obesity as a condition and a public health epidemic. And it's not that they can't see how the medicalization of obesity might be similar to the medicalization of other things. It's that they are able to identify clear shortcomings in the scientific practice of, say, early 20th century race scientists that are not present in the 21st century research around obesity. And they are mature enough to not throw away the whole concept of scientific inquiry, based on the fact that some science is poorly done, and some science is used for nefarious purposes. It's fine to point these things out as a basis for skepticism. In fact, science can only really thrive in the light of critical scrutiny. but you have to actually point out what the science is getting wrong, otherwise you're just jumping from point A to point Z, and patting yourself on the back for a job well done. It's embarrassing. And let's be real, these people are probably perfectly happy to defer to science whenever it's convenient for them. And I don't doubt that they'll accept scientific findings on all sorts of things outside of fatness. It's only when scientists come up with conclusions that they don't want to accept that they're bringing all this stuff up. So you'll forgive me if I'm a little less than impressed by the particular brand of selective skepticism.
If we were meant to count every single calorie or gram of a particular nutrient in food, such as carbs, proteins, and fats, Mother Nature would have developed nutrition facts labels a long time ago.
Haha, this one is a little weird, isn't it? I can only assume that it's meant to be humorous on some level, and that it's not meant to be taken literally. But there is a kind of claim about diet and nature embedded within it, which I can only assume is genuinely felt. So let's think about it a little. I suppose what the post is trying to say is that human beings are ultimately animals. Creatures who exist within nature, not above it, and who should not rely on artificial constructs like nutrition facts sheets to navigate our most natural and basic functions. In this case, eating. I find this proposition weird for two reasons. The first is that it fails to acknowledge that with or without nutrition facts sheets, we are not living in an environment that can be considered natural, when compared to our animalistic origins. Like, if the only food we had available to us was raw vegetables, berries, and unprocessed meats, and we had to go out there and forage, gather, and hunt to attain these foods, it probably wouldn't be necessary to consult nutrition facts sheets. But given that we are surrounded by abundant, highly processed, and borderline addictive foods, which are often calorically dense and nutritionally imbalanced, these sheets serve as something of a helpful countermeasure to the artificiality that already permeates just about everything we put in our mouths. The second thing that strikes me as odd about the post's positioning is its uncritical centering of nature, and what nature apparently intends as a satisfactory authority to submit to when determining how we ought to live our lives. Maybe I'm in the minority here, but I've never found the idea that something is natural at all compelling as a justification for doing things a certain way. I can't identify any reason why that which is natural is automatically good. And in plenty of cases, the opposite seems to be true. I mean, the animal kingdom is full of animals doing things that are natural to them, like ripping one another to shreds and eating one another. But I certainly wouldn't want to be a salmon or a fur seal, rather than a human, just because they live a life that is closer to nature. Personally, I'm much more concerned with securing desirable outcomes. You know, making people happy. And if having nutritional information sheets on hand allows people to keep track of what they're eating, maintain a healthy diet, and live longer and more satisfying lives, then that seems like a win to me. Regardless of whether it's natural, but maybe that's just me. Well, that's all I've got for you today. I hope you enjoyed the posts and my commentary. What do you think? Does unlimited eating make sense as a biological coping tool? Is it worth giving up on a healthy diet to free up brain space for other things? Is pointing out that obesity is unhealthy just like homophobia? Do past misuses of science justify a total rejection of scientific research relating to weight? Should Mother Nature have developed nutrition facts labels? If counting calories and macros was really important, let me know in the comments. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe, or I'll send you to see a therapist. whose idea of a healthy coping strategy is endless trips to the buffet. Just kidding, haha. Anyway, catch you later.